Doing? Good morning, good evening, whatever it is for you. Hope everyone is doing well. We are back live. This is the Money Shift News Show. We are a daily automotive news show. We were on a bit of a hiatus as of late, but we are back and we have a super duper long show for you guys today. So I am actually really excited. But the first thing we got to do is, as we so often do here, is we got to hit that share button and then we are good to go. Oh my God. Did Facebook literally just change their look as we went live? Interesting. No. All right. I just logged into the wrong one. Amazing. Let's try it over here. Oh God. Yeah, because I haven't used Streamlabs in a grip. It's asking me to re-sign in again. You know what I mean? Okay. All right. We got a couple folks in here. Hello, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well today. We have a really long show, so I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of the things that we're going to be going into, and then we can get started. What is going on, Moses? Thank you for tuning in. Welcome, my man. Let's do that. Okay. All right, guys. So we have a couple videos that we're going to start with first. The first is some highlights from the Formula One race this weekend, which, by the way, was terrific. There obviously are going to be spoilers in this video, so if you guys haven't seen the Formula One race, tune out for like 10 minutes. I don't know what to tell you. Then we got a couple more videos. There's one really hilarious drag race that I just haven't watched yet, and I really want to watch it with everyone here. And then we have one more where we're watching the Gordon Murray T50 going around the Top Gear test circuit. And then we have a bunch of news from Aston Martin to new Camaros to new Ladas to highway charging, ProDrive, Tesla, SCG, Renault, Hyundai, everything. So lock in, strap in, guys. We are going to have a great show today. I just got to hit the login button and we are all set. How's everyone's week? How's everyone's weekend? How's everyone been? It's been a bit. I haven't seen folks. I've definitely had a lot of what's it called? I just miss doing this. Like, I love hanging out with everybody here. I love just, talking cars, shooting the shit. Michael, Moses, Tim, whoever it is. Really love just hanging out with you guys. So I'm stoked to be back. All right. So with that said, the share button has been hit. Let's watch and let's go through this Formula One race. If you guys have seen it, I definitely want to hear your commentary. Michael, weekend was great. Hope you enjoyed vacation. It was really good, man. It was really nice. The flights were awkward. Being on like an airplane with a mask the whole time was just different. I don't have an issue with it. It was just different. But being in a different country for a bit was really great. I have a European auto show planned for this week, so I didn't want to do it today because there was a lot of news that we just didn't cover because I obviously wasn't here last week. But that said, I want to do like an update of all the cars that I saw, got to experience, and some high-level thoughts on just Europe versus the States that we definitely have some folks in the chat that would love to comment on. I know Fabian is one of them from Germany, but it's just a completely different mindset, and it's very interesting to see the differences, right? Like what cars are popular there, what cars aren't, things that we lust over here in the States that we don't get that is kind of dumb. But anyway, whatever. We'll get to that. We have a European episode planned. But for now, let's get started with the Formula One highlights. So, guys, Formula One race happened yesterday. It was at the Hungaroring, the Hungarian Grand Prix. A couple things you need to know about this track. Number one, it is very hard to pass on, okay? These cars already have issues lead following, which you'll see a lot in this race, all right? But in addition to that, the Hungaroring overall really just has two places where you can pass, turn one and turn two. Other than that, you're pretty much stuck following the person in front of you. So that created for a lot of frustration for folks. Ooh. That created for a lot of frustration for folks in the Grand Prix, right? People that were just trying to pass, folks that were trying to get around cars that oftentimes they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds faster than, and they just couldn't do anything. Not 6 seconds, that's a lot of time, but you know what I mean? They were a lot faster than those cars, and they just couldn't get around them. So grid position is paramount, and where you are on the track is very important. Now, to set some basis for the start of this race, it was raining on that outlap, and it was raining pretty hard. You can kind of sort of see the edges of the tires on these guys, but everyone is wearing intermediates except for Antonio Giovinazzi from Alfa Romeo, who pitted to switch to wets. That's how wet this track was at the beginning of this race, so that is important to know as we launch off. Michael says, tons of great action in the Hungary Grand Prix this weekend. The start was a mess, but it was jam-packed. Alonso still has it. Totally agree. Let's take a listen. Let me know, by the way, guys, if this is too loud.
Away we go, and Hamilton does get away very well indeed. Bottas doesn't. Verstappen's already nearly along.
So off the start already, okay, Hamilton has an amazing start with Verstappen right behind him. These are the two cars right in the center. These are the championship rivals. What I need you guys to pay attention to is the left side of this screen. Audio is fine. Thank you, Michael. The left side of this screen. The orange car here is Lando Norris. The Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas is the other car. He got a horrible start, was spinning like crazy, and Lando Norris was able to get around him.
Alongside him, and there goes Lando Norris down the inside. It is Hamilton.
So going into the first corner, you have Hamilton and Verstappen with a clear 1-2 lead. Right behind them, though, you see Lando Norris, Valtteri Bottas, Charles Leclerc. There's just a lot of cars that are piling in here. There's an Alpine right here as well. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's see how this plays out. And by the way, you can see Giovinazzi in the pit lane here. When you make a change like this at the beginning of a race, you have to start from pit road.
Has dropped 3 or 4 places, and there's Lando.
So we can already see, okay, Valtteri Bottas botches his braking, screws it up, locks up. He was so close to Lando Norris that any braking mistake would have caused an accident, and it did. So Valtteri hits Lando, who's going to catapult this direction. Valtteri is going to then sweep across and hit the other car. Check this out. Let's see if we can actually slow this down. Yeah, we can. All right, ready? We slowed it down a little bit. So Norris, bang, right into Verstappen. Bottas, bang, right into Perez. Gasly is out here on the Rolex sign. Narrowly avoids it. But the two Red Bulls punted effectively by Valtteri. The two Red Bulls were punted by Valtteri, and Lando Norris DNF'd because of that one impact.
Sergio Perez, and that's the Alfa Romeo.
And then after this, okay, see if we can go back here. The next thing that I need you guys to pay attention to is this right here. Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin is going all the way from last, and he's trying to get all the way to first into one corner, and he also had braking issues. He hits Charles Leclerc, who spins Daniel Ricciardo.
And into each other.
Bang,
Bottas and Sergio
bang,
Perez, and that's the
spin.
Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri.
So we lost in that one corner, okay? We lost Sergio Perez. We lost Lando Norris. We lost Charles Leclerc. We lost Valtteri Bottas. That's 4 cars. One corner.
Getting caught up as the McLaren spun round with
Hamilton, off. Because he got so much of a lead, because his start was so good, and because he was able to hit the apex of that corner first, he was scot-free in that turn. No one impacted him. But who do you see second? Mercedes now is ahead in the Drivers' Championship with Lewis on top and in the Constructors. So that was a huge race for them. The other thing to note is that look how dejected Sebastian is, because he knew that was his race. That pit stop cost him the race win for sure. And it would have been awesome to see Aston Martin have their first win after already getting a podium at the hands of Sebastian Vettel in Baku. So with that, Formula One just has even more drama going into the following races, and I am very excited to see it. Here you can see the new Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton is now on top by a small margin, right? 6 points. Lando Norris and Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez, still 3, 4, 5, and they have a big enough lead on Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, who are now dead even thanks to Carlos's Sainz. Or actually, Carlos is going to be ahead of Charles Leclerc thanks to being promoted to third place. So good running from the Ferrari boys. Daniel Ricciardo still fifth. Sebastian, though, coming in hot to catch that guy.
There's a lot more to play for in 2021.
Doesn't show the constructors.
To Mercedes.
No, it doesn't. Great race, though, guys. Really, really great race. Okay. I'm going to fast forward this, guys. I just really wanted to watch this. I don't know why. This was a quick drag race, but it's with cars that are really, really slow. I don't know why things like this just make me really, really happy. The first thing we had is the Citroen Amy. Let's just go to the drag race. I don't even care about the details as much. These cars are just hilarious. Look how goofy looking these things are. Okay.
Go, I'm off. My foot has almost...
They're all electric.
I'm off. I'm winning. Micro electric is caving off the line. I'm lagging behind, so...
This will be quick, guys. I know. I'm putting you through this, but this is just so funny to me.
Of electric quadricycles. Yes.
They're technically quadricycles, which is hilarious.
The Twizzy might be gaining. The other two are just totally...
If you guys are located in Massachusetts, you can actually rent the Renault Twizy right there.
It's definitely gaining.
Jack says, damn, dude, that pulls. That thing pulls. Look at it, look at it, look at it.
And I've won.
Close.
Oh, God. You tipped over. There we go. Yes. Third place. All right, I'll take that.
This is quarter mile.
The race
Look at
was
this.
left in the dust. And it was the Micro Electric which crossed our 400-meter finish line.
400
first,
meters.
taking
25
seconds to do
seconds.
so, followed very closely by the Twizy. Behind them, the G-Wiz recovered from its poor start and finished the sprint in 29.2 seconds, while the Ami was dead.
What up,
last
Tim?
in
Welcome, my man.
35.2 seconds.
35
the
seconds.
Ami did make a very quick start.
Now, what is that? 40 mile
Oh, I love it. I love these cars, man. I'm going to be honest with you guys.
stable.
Just really great. Okay, then
And
the last
really-
video that we're going to watch today is some continued development of the Gordon Murray T50. Anything that comes out with this, we're definitely going to be watching closely because of how important this car is and how cool it is. Welcome back. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Love it. They're running it on the Top Gear test track. Here we go. Sounds pretty nasty in a good way. Well, they got two of them. The ultimate driver's car. All right, boys and girls, let's get into today's car news. And when I say today, guys, I pretty much mean the last week and a half because we've been out for a period of time. So, Tim, you haven't missed anything. In fact, you tuned in at just the right time. We're going to kick it off with Aston Martin. Aston Martin posted their sales to date. And guys, it is good news in the village of Aston Martin. Sales are up 224%. Aston Martin sold almost 3,000 vehicles so far to date, and more than half of them are the DBX, which is that SUV in the back. Now, thanks to that DBX, Aston Martin was actually able to decrease its losses by almost $200 million. Over the course of this year, the brand has lost $127 million, which over the same amount of time last year, the brand lost $300 $116 million. Now, Aston Martin also noted that deliveries of the Valkyrie will begin in Q4, and the AMR Pro will also come in the fourth quarter. Aston Martin also detailed that DBX derivatives are coming. Now, does this mean a high-performance model? Does this mean a plug-in hybrid model? Does this mean a 7-passenger model? Does this mean all of them? We're not entirely sure, but the good news here is that Aston Martin's introduction of their SUV was able to provide stability to a brand that needed it. Aston Martin was in a crazy downward spiral, and the DBX is turning the brand around, okay? That is good news. So every time we think about SUVs ruining things, okay, that SUV in the back there is the reason why we're getting the Valkyrie. That SUV in the back there is the reason why we're continuing to get beautiful vehicles from Aston Martin. Jack says, thank God. As much as I hate seeing them make an SUV, I'm very happy that they're not going under. And that's just it, right? Now, if the brand was going to switch entirely to DBX alternatives, I'd have an issue, as I'm assuming you would as well, Jack, Tim, others, right? If they decided to switch everything to DBX variants, we're going to have some problems. But they aren't. They're leveraging the DBX and some alternatives of the DBX to fund new things. And that's good news. That is good news, right? That's exactly what we're looking for. So massive kudos to the folks over at Aston Martin who are able to turn this ship around thanks to a massive injection of cash from Lawrence Stroll. That helps them to do it. And I'm excited to see what comes for the brand, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, they're making some of my favorite vehicles right now, from the DBX to the Valhalla to the Valkyrie to the Vantage. Everything that they're producing right now is not only beautiful, but has the stats, has the chops, has the look to really just match whatever is in the industry and space. Moving on to something a bit more brutish and yet overall really interesting, we got the new Copo Camaro. And this thing is special not just because it's a new Copo Camaro, but because there's a new engine underneath the hood of this guy. Now, I want to note that there's 3 engines available in the Copo Camaro, and the newest engine is actually the one that's lowest on power, but it's the biggest, and it's the biggest by far. What you guys are looking at is a 572 cubic inch V8. Now, what is that in terms that we're familiar with? Okay, that's 9.4 liters. I'm going to say that one more time. 572 cubic inches is the equivalent of 9.4 liters. Holy shit. That's a lot. That's a lot of liters. And I just realized we don't have any music going, which I don't like. Okay, here we go. So yes, that is in fact a lot of liters. Here we go. Yes, we're in. Hell yeah, says Jack. Yeah, this thing is massive. This is a cast iron block with 4 bolt main caps, aluminum heads, forged crank, forged connecting rods, both of which are steel, and forged aluminum pistons. This engine is meant to drag, and it is meant to do it all day long. Okay? Now, it might surprise you, but GM is saying that this engine makes just 430 horsepower. Now, I know what you guys are thinking, because that's why I wear these headphones. I don't wear them to listen to anything. I'm not listening to music or anything like that. I wear them so that I can hear what you guys are saying, so that I can properly react, okay? And what you guys are saying to me, you're saying, Thanasi, how the hell is an engine that has 9.4 liters, an engine with forged aluminum pistons, cranks, connecting rods, all this jazz, how is it only making aluminum heads? How is it only making 430 horsepower? Now, I'll tell you, okay? The reason why it's making 430 horsepower is because that's what the series that it competes in allows. 430 horsepower is the max, but if we tune into the older version of this engine, an engine that you can buy off the shelf right now, a crate engine, that engine makes 727 horsepower. It's also important to remember that these cars run 8.4 second quarter miles. So if you think this thing is making 430 horsepower, then my friend, I might point you to the direction of Lens Crafters, where they can get your eyes checked, because we did it. We're back. I'll point you guys to Lens Crafters because they can fix your eyes. This thing definitely is making in the neighborhood of 700 horsepower, and it might have a massive restrictor plate for racing, but this is a really powerful, powerful engine. Now, I know what you guys are wondering. What are the other two motors available? You can get this thing also with a 7-liter V8 that makes 470 horsepower, or a 5.7-liter supercharged V8 that makes 600 horsepower. If it were me, I'd save all the money and get the cheapest one. I'd get this guy for $105,000. You can get that 9.4-liter V8. Shout out to my dude B. Connolly on the Twitch chat. What is going on, my Dan? Hope you're doing well. So $105,000 gets you behind the wheel of this thing. Welcome back from Euro Paradise. Thank you. I'm glad to be back. Seriously, I'm glad to be back. For the mere price of $26,000, you can also opt for a package that gets you stickers, it gets you paint, it gets you black bow ties, race wheels with Hoosiers. Seems a little bit overpriced if you ask me, but this thing is pretty cool regardless, and I'm happy to see that it exists. Moving on to another vehicle that I am ecstatic exists, even if it's not in the United States. What you guys are looking at is the Lada Niva Bronto. Now, this guy is a heavily revised version of the Lada Niva legend, the OG, the classic, the historical, the one that we all know and love, the Lada Niva, the bulletproof machine. But this car makes a variety of changes, first of which you can see on the outside. This car has bulging fender flares. This car has new lighting in the front, new wheels and tires. But what it also has is a heavily revised interior, for which Lada actually didn't include any photos. It has a new center console with new climate controls, better seats that actually have heating. Whoa. And more noise and vibration insulation to make this thing a better place to be in the day-to-day drive. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, Thanasi, what the hell is powering this thing? No worries, fam. I got you. 1.7-liter naturally aspirated gas engine is powering the Lada Niva Bronto. That engine makes a groundbreaking, earth-shattering 83 horsepower. That 4-cylinder is mated to a 5-speed manual transmission, and it is powered by an all-wheel drive system with locking front and rear diffs. Add to that a slightly modified reinforced suspension, and bang, you got the Lada Niva Bronto. Here she is. I think it's awesome. Brandon says, so Mr. Auto Man, if I were to buy a truck for less than $40K, what truck am I buying? Can you clarify for me if you're looking for a pickup truck or if you're looking for an SUV? And if it's either one of those, what's the main purpose? Are you hauling family? Are you towing? What are you specifically looking for? And then I can maybe help, this ballpark. Let's move on to the next subject, though. This one is mighty interesting, if I do say so myself. This is related to charging. Now, what you guys are looking at is something that you've seen if you've been in any major city. What you're looking at is a system of electric wires that goes over the road and actively charges the vehicle that's connected to it. Now, to date, this has been used for buses. This has been used for mass transit options, right? Things like trains, things like buses, all in the name of moving people from place to place, but it has never been powering a semi until now. Continental Engineering Services and Siemens are working on a way to produce these current collectors, these pantographs as they're known, okay? And what they're trying to do is create a series of this system over 2,400 miles of road in the UK that will allow electric, fuel cell, and hybrid semis to run emission-free. Effectively, what they do, all right, is the truck drives underneath and the cables provide enough power to not only power the truck, but to actively charge its battery. So effectively what you're getting is more juice to power your squeeze, right? You're getting this cable that powers the truck as you're driving under it, but it also actively charges your battery so that when you remove your truck from those wires, maybe you're back to 100%. Maybe you're back to 80%. That's pretty cool, thus extending the range of an electric vehicle, thus increasing the efficiency of a hybrid truck, thus extending the range of a fuel cell vehicle. So this is pretty awesome because, again, it just doesn't provide enough power to just drive the vehicle. It also powers it to recharge it. That's pretty awesome, and it's going to be located on highways that are heavily frequented. And that allows the truck to just drive underneath it and just do it. And the only reason why they're choosing 2,400 miles of roadway and not all of the UK or more is because this is where 85% of the driving happens. So this is a really awesome discovery, and I hope that it works out. I think this is really, really cool because until we get to the point to where these semi trucks have a range long enough to be able to, and a charge time fast enough to be able to truly replace the diesels, something like this is a bridge solution that gets us there, and I think that's really cool. Brandon says, pick up brand new family utility use, no towing. Looking at the Colorado Ranger, love the Tacoma, but it's out of my price range. Okay. Three vehicles only that you should consider. Four. Okay? 4. Have you driven any of them? If you haven't, you got to drive them all. But number 1, and this is no particular order, these are just things that you should keep in mind when you're looking at stuff. Number 1, the new Nissan Frontier, okay? In about 8 days, the embargo will be lifted and reviews will start to come out, but it is looking very promising. They took that 3.8 liter V6 with a 9-speed automatic, gave it new suspension, gave it new bodywork, gave it a new interior, which, by the way, was all that truck needed to be modern, to be relevant. And I think that's going to be a good one, and it's going to be priced really, really well. We're looking at under 20 to start and probably mid to high 30s for a really well-equipped one. You can get it in green. You can get it in beige. That's a great option. Number 2, Honda Ridgeline. I know that wasn't in your list, but if you're not going to be doing any towing, it's going to be the most comfortable, it's going to be the most fuel efficient, and it's going to be the most reliable out of all of these, okay? The Honda Ridgeline, for someone that doesn't do any towing, is the best. Its comfort is bar none. Its capability in terms of storage, in terms of just fitting so many things into it, it really is great. And the redesign that they did for this year makes it more truck-like. You can get a Sport with the HBD package, which gives you the fender flares and the wheels, and you're looking at a $40,000 truck that fits all the boxes for you. That's number 2. Number 3, if you're willing to wait even longer, you got the Maverick and the Santa Cruz, which are a little smaller, but offer all the truck-like things you're looking for. Hell, you can get a Maverick fully loaded for under $30,000. And because you're in an area of the world that doesn't necessarily need all-wheel drive, you can get the front-wheel drive hybrid version, which gets you 40 mpg, which is pretty incredible. Out of those trucks you listed, though, the Colorado, the Ranger, the Tacoma, I would probably be more inclined to skew towards the Ranger. The reason is because the drivetrain in the Ranger is the best. That 2.3 liter EcoBoost combined with that 10-speed automatic is solid. That thing can tow a lot, tow 10,000 pounds. What kills me about the Ranger is the interior and the infotainment, which is why I would skew to a truck like the Ridgeline and the Frontier over it. But out of those 3 options, I would pick the Ranger. So to recap, what I'm recommending is for you to get out there and go drive the Ranger and the Ridgeline, and then when the Frontier comes out, those would be the top 3, with a rogue 4th choice being the Santa Cruz and the Maverick. But good luck, and let me know which you pick. Anyway, Jack says, that's actually an interesting concept. Seems like it'd be difficult to ensure a stable connection with the truck as it's bouncing around over bumps, potholes, etc. That's a good call. Jack, I'm not entirely sure how the system works. I've only seen it in low speed things, right? Like in city streets, we're talking under 40 miles an hour for buses. But those are definitely bouncy too, so there has to be some sort of system in place here that keeps them quote unquote on rails. And it'll be interesting to see how that sort of materializes. Important to remember also that trucks in Europe for the most part do have a speed cap. So these guys aren't going 80, 100 miles an hour. These guys are going 60 and under, which hopefully makes it easier. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a bit of a bouncing problem, if you will. Moving on to something that is also zero emissions, we are looking at some photos of the SCG zero emission hydrogen fuel cell boot pickup concept. Now, Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus announced their intention to create a hydrogen pickup truck that would take on the Baja, but would also be street drivable. Scuderia Cameron Glickenhaus thinks that hydrogen is a better future over electric, and as a result is putting a lot of their resources in hydrogen. Now, this truck will have a 600-mile range, and it will also share a lot of looks with the Boot, which is their current pickup, which is absolutely batshit crazy. There's another picture in here somewhere, but effectively what you're looking at is something that can carry a shit ton of hydrogen, go really, really far. 600 miles of range is more than any electric vehicle as it stands, and hydrogen vehicles charge effectively quickly. You're filling it with hydrogen takes pretty similar to gas to fill it. Now, the argument is production of hydrogen worth it, etc., etc. There's a lot to cross with hydrogen. Jack says, looks like a huge bomb on wheels. I do agree that there definitely are some roadblocks that we need to solve with hydrogen vehicles before they're mass-produced, mass-drivable, etc., etc. But, the one thing that I want you guys to remember is that hydrogen vehicles haven't been around for a couple months. These have been around for decades now. Honda's been making them, Hyundai's been making them, a bunch of other companies, and we haven't had reports. We had some early on, but we haven't had any reports of pretty crazy things. Hell, in California, you can go out today, buy a Toyota Mirai, buy a Hyundai Nexo. These are hydrogen fuel cell vehicles that today are daily driven and driven with a lot of miles. Here's a picture of it, rendered and see, rendered, obviously. This is a rendering. This isn't a real thing. But I'm excited for it. I think hydrogen's interesting. It's a good way for semis to continue to get the range that they're getting and to decrease the fill times. And in fact, Hyundai actually has launched 30 hydrogen semi trucks in the California area. They think so as well. But, you know, super exciting. And I'm sure the performance is going to be batshit crazy. So I'm excited to see it. Ooh. I wasn't supposed to show you guys that one. We're supposed to show you guys this one. What you guys are looking at here is the ProDrive BRX. And ProDrive is a company that we should all know. They've developed a lot of cars that are, you know, huge in the history of the automotive racing landscape. We're talking about cars like the Subaru Impreza WRC cars. ProDrive has been behind the scenes in producing some of the awesome cars that we see racing on our streets. We're talking about Aston Martin Le Mans cars, all right? Bunch of different stuff. But they recently got their hands in Dakar. Now, the car on the left is the car that they competed with last year. The car on the right is going to be the new version of the car, and they're actually going to be competing with both of these this year, but there are a lot of differences between the two. Now, the one on the right has larger tires. We're talking about 17s instead of 16s, and we're talking about 37-inch tires instead of 32s. So it definitely has a lot more tire under it, as you can see, pretty evident by this shot. It also has increased suspension travel. We're talking about to the tune of 2.8 inches more. It also is wider. This thing is 1 foot wider, and because of that, it has things like longer wishbones, improved dampers, and bigger brakes. Both of these cars are powered by an EcoBoost 3.5 liter. Now, BRX is looking for that top spot. They're trying to beat Toyota. They're trying to beat Mini in the quest for Dakar overall victory. And in fielding two cars that are fundamentally very different, shout out to Mark Van Booski with the like and the share. Hope things are going well. Hope the gig is going awesome, my dude. On brake, just swinging through, my man. Cheers to you. This thing's batshit crazy, but it's got a lot of competition. Mini comes to play at Dakar. They've won for like the last 5 years. Toyota also does really, really well. Mini is bringing 3 different vehicles to Dakar. They're bringing a buggy. They're bringing 2 all-wheel drive variants. Toyota is bringing 1 pickup truck with 2 variations, and then ProDrive is bringing 2 of these. So there's going to be a lot of competition in Dakar. Audi is also bringing an electric vehicle in hopes of taking the Dakar overall pole, but this is just one of the coolest ones. Ian Callum designed this. He's the guy that made the Jaguar F-Type among a bunch of beautiful vehicles, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the race. But the next vehicle that we're going to be talking about today, a vehicle that I previewed quickly when I showed it to you guys. This is the Bowler. Now, for those of you that don't know who Bowler is, Bowler has created a bunch of racing Land Rover vehicles for the better part of 2 decades, at the very least. If you play Forza, there's some Bowlers in there. But effectively what they do is they take Land Rovers and they make them race cars. And that's what they did right now with the new Defender. Now, Bowler has created a 1-make series that will have 12 teams that will compete in multiple rallies. These are Defenders that are modified to the core. And I know what you guys are thinking, right? Because that's why I wear these headphones. You're like, Thanasi, did they use the V8 Defender? The crazy one, the supercharged one? That'd be the natural choice, right? Wrong. They used the 2-liter turbo, the 4-cylinder Defender. In addition to that, there's obviously a roll cage, there's extensive bracing, there's reinforcements for safety equipment, there's upgraded cooling, upgraded exhaust, upgraded suspension, intake changes, polycarbonate windows instead of glass. And these things cost $140,000. So they're ready to race, and they're ready to do so for $140K. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of race cars, it's actually not that bad. So I'm excited to see how these things go. I'm excited to see where they compete. I'm excited to see how they compete against other race cars. Obviously, these things aren't going to be WRC levels of fast. They're frickin' SUVs, okay? But it's pretty cool. They're pretty cool. So I'm definitely excited for this. And $140,000 isn't that bad when you're considering that you're effectively getting a race-ready machine right off the jump. Now, moving in, we got 3 pieces of news left. Jack says, always love the Bowlers. Usually they're way too expensive, but a $440K ain't bad, all things considered. I totally agree with you, Jack. It is a solid price. But we got to talk about this thing. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying we don't know price. We don't know what engine. But what we do know is it's cool as all hell. What you guys are looking at is the Legend Automobile Turbo 3. Now, this is not related to the Legends Audi Your Quattro, the electric thing that looked like an Audi. This is a different company with a very similar name. Okay. Legend Automobile is founded in LA by a bunch of French automotive enthusiasts. These guys sound like my people. And their first task was to create a modern rendition of the Renault Turbo 2. This is what I'll call a singer version of the Renault Turbo. Now, I hate using that term, right? But what I mean when I say singerfied in this sense, right, is something that is a attempt at perfecting a classic chassis. That's more than just resto modding, right? It's more than just putting a modern engine. It's more than just putting a modern interior. What you're attempting to do is take the recipe of the old car and perfecting it. Michael says, I couldn't tell it was French. That car is awesome. This car is sick. Now let's talk about it. Every exterior detail has been modified. This car has new headlights. This car has a redesigned bumper. This car has rear vents that were modernized, a bigger spoiler, new LED taillights, twin square exhausts that are center exit. And they're able to do so because the body on this car is handmade carbon fiber. Each of these panels are hand-laid carbon fiber, which is pretty awesome. Now you can see it here, and if you compare it to the classic image of the Renault 5, you would obviously tell that the Turbo 2 and the Turbo 3 share a lot, right? This is definitely a Renault. But looking at both of them next to each other, and let me pull up a picture of one so you guys can see the classic one as well. Renault 5 Turbo 2. All right, let me pull it up here. Oh, apparently I found the biggest picture of a Renault 5 of all time. Okay. So this is the OG one. I'm going to cover up my face for a second. I know what you guys are thinking. You're like, please don't do that. Anything but that. With the elevator music, yeah, we're chilling today, Mason. But yeah, you can see the front end here with a changed bumper design and new headlights. I don't know how I feel about the new headlights. I'm going to be honest with you. They look very much like Jeep Grand Cherokee, like aftermarket LED headlights. I would have liked a more plain design there, but I can't deny that the bumper looks a lot better. The interior is definitely new, but it takes the classic elements of the Renault 5 and it modernizes them, right? But the big key between this car and the car for which it is based is just how modern the exterior looks while retaining all the classic design elements of the Renault 5. Jack says, I was literally just thinking Wrangler lights. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the only thing I don't like about this, is they very much so look like Wrangler lights. Here's a picture of the back so that we can get the full image here. You can see the fenders retain that overall shape. You can see the vents here have a different design than the older car. The spoiler is a lot bigger than the older car as well. I adore the rear end of this thing. I think they freaking crushed it, from the vents to the left and right of the rear window to the LED taillights to the center exit exhaust. I think they absolutely crushed the look of the rear three-quarter and this front three-quarter view. I just don't like those damn headlights. I love everything else. Now, this car is going to be making 400 horsepower, which is a whopping 260 more than the vehicle for which it is based. What we don't know is a couple things. Number one, we don't know what this car is based on. Do they take a Renault Le Car, which is the skinny one, and do they then do a bunch of iterations, or do they start from a Turbo 2 and change everything? I think it would be wiser to start with the base car, but I don't know, right? And we also don't know what engine this is using. While we know it has 400 horsepower, we don't know if that is by way of an existing motor, something like a 2.3 liter EcoBoost out of a Ranger or a Focus RS, or if it's using something quite different, like an existing Renault motor that is just upgraded. Who knows? But what I know is I'm excited to see this thing on the road, and I hope that it actually makes it. No clue on price. Legend Automobile said, and they made it very clear, that they had no expense spared when they were making this car, so it's probably not going to be cheap. We'll see what that means in just a second, but I'm hopeful. Now, we got two pieces of news left for you guys, and we're going to start by way of Tesla. Some pretty big news. Late 2021, you will be able to use any car at a Tesla supercharger. I repeat, in late 2021, you will be able to use any electric vehicle at a Tesla supercharger, and I cannot stress enough how huge this news is, for a variety of reasons. For one, if you're someone like myself who doesn't charge at home, Tesla superchargers are the most efficient. They're easy. You drive up, they're everywhere, you plug right in, you go in, do your thing, you come back out, your car's full in 20, 30, 40 minutes. But the most important part is they're everywhere, and then right after that, they always work. While you might have one down, for the most part, there's another one at the station that works and is operable. The same can't be said for an Electrify America or a ChargePoint charger, where sometimes whole stations can be wiped out, right? Your confidence in Tesla systems is a lot higher than other systems. So if you have something like an ID4, if you're getting something like an Ioniq 5, or if you're hoping to get a Ford Lightning or something like that, your charging network just expanded and it just increased in reliability. You can do cross-country drives now with ease. You can do road trips with ease because you can rely on the Tesla supercharging network. Now, when Elon was asked to comment on this, he said, quote, "You just access the app and say, turn on this stall, and then how much electricity you want." So effectively, if you're this Tesla Model X, you would say, I'm in stall number 1 and I want to fill it up. And then bang, you start it. He says, and then this should basically work with, I think, almost any manufacturer's cars. There will be time constraints, and if the charge rate of the vehicle is super slow, then somebody will be charged more because the biggest constraint of the supercharger is time and how occupied is the stall. So that is really, really important, okay? Electric cars have varying charging levels, okay? If you have a vehicle like a Porsche Taycan, a Ioniq 5, those vehicles can charge very, very fast. And because of that, the supercharger can really go all out. It's not constricting its ability to charge, so they can charge faster. So the time that those vehicles are in the stall and using a Tesla supercharger is lower. So because of that, they don't have to pay a high rate. But if you're plugging in an older electric car, let's say an Audi e-tron, let's say, I don't know, a Mitsubishi i-MiEV, let's say Nissan Leaf, cars that don't have 200, 300, 400 kilowatt charging capability, you're going to be charged a little more because not only are you there longer, but because you're there longer, you're taking up the stall and the ability for Tesla to generate revenue off another vehicle, right? It makes sense. Elon continues, he says, and we'll be smarter with how we charge for electricity at the supercharger. So rush hour charging will be more expensive than off hours charging because there are many times when superchargers are empty and times when they're jam-packed. So it makes sense to have some price time discrimination. And this also is true, right? So you guys know I'm driving an electric car right now, and if you go to a Tesla supercharger, if you go at like noon, your price is a lot higher than if you go at 1 a.m. But when I say a lot higher, you're going from 0 to full for about $20 or $15, right? That's the difference, like $5. We're not talking about I pay 80 or I pay 10, right? It's very close. The price discrimination is there, but it's not a crazy delta. So him saying that they're going to continue to do this just makes sense, right? It does. It really does. So this is huge. If you guys are considering a non-Tesla electric vehicle, but we're worried about the charging infrastructure, you don't necessarily have to worry anymore. Buying a Tesla now has to be because you want the Tesla, because you believe in the full self-driving technology that is coming, because you believe in all the other things. What electric vehicle are you in right now? A 3? No, I am in a Y currently. Black Model Y. There's a review of that coming soon. But yeah, I'm in a Y currently. Dual motor. So this is huge, guys. I'm going to be honest. This is a really big announcement because for someone like me, again, who's charging at home or not charging at home, doesn't have the ability to, okay? I leverage fully Tesla superchargers and it's easy. You go to a charging station, 30 minutes, you run into a Marshall. Something to eat, whatever it is, you come out and your car's fully charged. But if you didn't have that, if you had something like a Volkswagen ID4, you go to an Electrify America charger and it might not even work. So your charging system is a lot less reliable. So Tesla opening this to other people is huge. And it would make me consider something else. It would make me consider an Ioniq 5. It would make me be really excited about a Ford Lightning, right? These are vehicles that before I might not have been as excited about because I didn't have the ability to charge on other chargers. So super jazzed for this, for sure. But the last bit of news that we're going to be talking about, guys, is the RM. Now, this is going to be relatively quick, but what you need to know is that Hyundai is still testing this and that it is closer than ever to production. Hyundai is not done with the RM. In fact, they just released a YouTube video by JP Performance, and I wish I could understand it. It's in German, but where a man drives the RM19. Now, they've made multiple iterations of the RM. They had the RM14, the 15, the 16, the 17, the 18, and the 19. So they've made 6 different iterations of this car. And in its most recent form, it looks like a racing version of the Veloster. But at its start, it looked like just a rear-engined regular Veloster that you'll see in a couple of these photos. Now, the RM19 has 400 horsepower, and it leverages a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, which is pretty exciting. Now, there's a couple iterations of the RM19 currently in testing. One of them has 400 horsepower. Another one has 350 horsepower. But the most important thing is that it's still testing. The engine and transmission at 350 horsepower. Bierman says give the sport car enormous charm. He says it can rev up to 7,000 and it has 339 pound-feet of torque with a 0 to 60 time of 4.3 seconds, which is incredible. Now, apparently the RM19 prototype cost Hyundai $519,000 to build, which is nutso, but it's a test car, so it makes sense. Hyundai is worried more about perfecting their mid-engine Halo car than they are just delivering something, which is why it's taken so long. But Hyundai says it will eventually have a mid-engine hatchback capable of dispatching 0 to 60 times in less than 4 seconds, which is pretty damn cool. Now, Jack asks, is it a rear-engine all-wheel drive? Jack, this is a rear-engine rear-wheel drive. This is an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic. This is a rear-engine rear-wheel drive thing, and that is pretty freaking awesome. Pretty freaking awesome indeed. Now, the concept that is driven in the video leverages the touring car engine, but we'll obviously not be getting that in the street variant. But the fact that they're still developing it, the fact that it is closer than ever to production gets me really excited as someone who has been following this thing for the better part of a decade. And it's just further proof, guys. It just reinstates what I was trying to tell Brandon in a previous podcast, guys. Hyundai is doing what you want your car brand to do. Hyundai is doing what you want your favorite brand to do. They're making performance versions of this. Jack says, dang, don't think I'd ever guess Hyundai would make anything rear-wheel drive. They did, remember. They had the Genesis Coupe, and they do now with the entire Genesis lineup, right? Because Hyundai knew that in order to get a luxury car brand off the jump, they had to make them rear-wheel drive. That's why the G70, the G80, the G90, the GV70, the GV80, all of their vehicles in their luxury lineup are rear-wheel drive vehicles. Now, I also have heard through the grapevine, through some folks at Hyundai, that there's a big talk right now whether this vehicle should come to life as a Hyundai or as a Genesis. Should they lux it up a little bit and make it a Genesis product, or should this remain sporty and Hyundai cheaper? That'll be interesting to see, and I'm not entirely sure which one is better, but one thing is for damn sure, I'm excited for this thing to come out. And if this thing costs $40,000, $50,000, you bet your ass I'm in there like swimwear. But that is all the car news that we got to talk about today. Brandon says, I'm still not buying a Hyundai performance car over all the other options out there. Then, my friend, you are missing out. You are missing out. Because the Veloster N for $34,000 provides just as much fun as a Civic Type R for over $40,000. And with that $6,000, that buys you a lot of track days, of which the Hyundai warranties. If your Veloster N has an issue out on track, Honda does not do that. If you blow your transmission on track and Honda knows it's on track, you're effed. If you're in a Veloster and you blow it, they'll fix it for you. And that's another thing that your brand doesn't do that these guys will do. They want you to track their car, which is why they're warranty it on track. Jack says, never knew that, always assumed it was a typical front bias all-wheel drive. No, they are actually rear-wheel drive first, and then the all-wheel drive ones are obviously all-wheel drive, but they're rear bias. All the Genesis cars are rear bias, all of them. So, Brandon, I'm just saying, you're missing out here. I'm not saying that they're the best in every category, right? I think the RAV4 is still better than the Tucson, okay? Things like that. But they are coming to play in a lot of their vehicles, and especially their fun vehicles. The Veloster N is mounds of fun. The Elantra N is going to be oodles of fun. The Sonata N line is a ton of fun as well. And I'm sure this thing, when it comes out, is going to be nasty. And if you miss out on a sub $50,000 rear engine, rear wheel drive car, I got nothing else to say. You know what I mean? But thank you guys for joining the show today. We streamed a little over an hour today. This was awesome. We got Brandon, we got Jack, we got others. It's just me. But if I'm shopping a track car, that's not it. I got to be honest with you. If you're shopping for a track car and you ain't making oodles of money, spending over $30K on anything that you take to the track, probably a bad decision. You should probably spend under 20 anyway. But if you're looking for a daily driver that is fun to drive on weekends and can do the occasional track day or autocross, and you aren't considering a Veloster N, you're making a mistake, because it's a ton of fun. But with that, guys, I am Thanasi. This is Money Shift in the morning. We are back every day during the week at around that 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard time slot. If you guys enjoyed the show today, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit the follow, subscribe button as well so that you can be in tune whenever we go live. And tell your friends, let's keep this growing. We hit almost 1,600 followers on Facebook and we're cruising. And I have you all to thank for that. So I appreciate you guys continuing to spread the word about the Money Shift page. And I'm excited to see where we are heading to next. Look for at some point this week just a European car dump. I'm going to put a bunch of pictures that I took, much to the chagrin of my fiance, by the way, of just cars. And we're going to talk about the difference of mentality between Euros and us here in the States. What I will have to say is my rental was a LPG powered Renault Clio, and it made my car back home feel like a freaking supercar. All right, boys, I am Thanasi. I will talk to you all tomorrow. See you later.